Hi, everybody. Patrick here from How Cheeto Will View. 8 questions with. Uh, Thanks for coming in for our last show of the week. We will be talking to Travis White, Wet Denim Productions. His wife is currently on the disabled list, so to speak. And she's pregnant, right?
She is. She's 24 weeks in. But with my genes, she looks like she's about to pop any minute now. So
Now I have actually interviewed two women that have been pregnant. One was just like that, was just about ready to do pop. In fact, that was Augie Duke, love
Mhm.
you, Augie. And then the other one was an actress named Sadie Katz. Love you, Sadie. Uh,
Nice.
it was great because Augie was huge. I mean, I was
Yeah,
like, I was one of those like, okay, so here's how we're gonna do this interview. We're gonna go as long as you can feel comfortable. The second you say you don't feel good, we're done. And I said, I says, are you okay with that? I mean, I was a little nervous. I was like, do you want to postpone it? She says, oh, no, we'll do it. And then I said, okay, the second you feel any sort of slight discomfort, you let me know. Nope, came through like a champ.
nice. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was hoping to. She this whole pregnancy's been real, like smooth sailing for her for the most part. She's only thrown up once. Um, but I guess it's just really hidden at the final stretch here. Like we're just about to enter the third trimester, and it's just like all coming down. And she's busy. She has a full-time job, and that's very demanding of her, and so it's just all kind of came crumbling on top of her today. But
Sure,
she's
sure.
right now.
No, that's fine. No, I get it. Will this be your first child?
Yes. Oh yeah. First, maybe last. Who knows? We've been dating 8, 9 years now, and living together for about 6, and so we've been consciously kind of pushing this deadline up the hill. It's inevitable, but we're kind of, I guess for a lot of filmmakers, and for lack of a better word, we've been pretty selfish with our time and our freedom, and we love to travel and everything. And all of our friends are, have 1, 2, or 3 kids, and so we've seen it firsthand, just like how much of a shift into your life that these little things, steer you into. And so
Yeah.
yeah, here it is. It's coming
Uh,
quick.
I'll be blunt. I mean, when me and my wife, we talked about kids, before we got married, and I personally, I just didn't think I was father material.
Mhm, mhm.
And,
Hey, it's not meant for everybody. I mean, even everything that's going on with climate change in the country, and it's
oh,
just there's so many factors that uh, stack up on top of each other that makes a compelling case to just like play it safe and not have a
yeah.
kid. But
I don't know whether to congratulate somebody when they say they're pregnant. Do I congratulate you, or do I sit there and give you the Hail Mary, the last, like, oh my God, I hope this works out,
I think
you
a little
know,
bit of both.
yeah, yeah. It used to be not that way. It used to be like, hell yeah, pass the cigars around, and it was a massive celebration, and now it's like, it's a really conscious effort to decide to do a family or not.
Yes.
And now we have our without getting too deep into this, but now we've had seismic shifts into our country's thinking
Right.
and whatnot, so that also plays into it. But on the other hand, it also creates massive material for film. So I mean, there's a lot of stories to be mined out of having a kid in today's world.
Yes.
Hey, buds, how are you? Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Um, yeah, I guess I was just reading about this before I went on. I guess James Caan passed away.
Oh yeah, that's right. R.I.P.
Yeah,
Were you a
man,
big Connor fan?
what a powerhouse, huh?
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I was just sitting there I was thinking about, I was thinking about that and going like, man, the first thing everybody said, and I would expect it. I thought there'd be two roles that people would immediately bring into mind. That would be Misery, and it would also probably be Sonny Corleone from The Godfather.
Easily, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Top two, top three at least. Yeah, for sure.
Now, when it comes down to on-screen deaths, his Sonny Corleone is always going to be a top 10.
Hmm. Hmm.
Have you ever seen the? Have you ever seen The Godfather?
Oh yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
I remember when I watched that scene for the first time. I think I was like 13, maybe 14. I was just like, I was amazed. And then I thought, I thought the worst thing happened wasn't with him when he got ventilated like that. It's when he fell down and they came over and kicked his head. And I was just like, I'm going like, damn, that must have hurt, you know?
No, you know what's great and so powerful about The Godfather is that how it transcends through time. I mean, I had the first time I had saw it, I don't know, 15. I'm 34, going on 35 now. Um, However, Madison's first time we seeing it was during the initial lockdown. So seeing it after all these years, and of course, you age and experience, and it's just a masterful craft that you really can't replicate in any way, and it really does, like, it's timeless. So
It really is. Um, yeah, it was, sort of weird. It's like, you go and watch that movie, and there's one thing you think of that I always took away with me was like when Al Pacino first started, right?
mhm.
Al Pacino was so, he was so handsome. I mean, he was just wow. It's like, you can definitely know why all the ladies were sitting there, while like, but it was just sort of funny. It's like you sit there and you look at him back then when he's doing The Godfather, and then during on as he ages, he just a lot of the hard life caught up to him a little bit,
For
and
sure.
he
Oh yeah.
and you definitely see it in his whole persona.
Mhm.
He sort of got a little bit, he sort of got a little older before he should have,
Oh
in
yeah,
his look. Um,
definitely.
Hey, greetings. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We're interviewing filmmaker Travis White from Wet Denim Productions, and we'll be getting to the interview here in a couple of minutes. We're just talking about James Caan, who passed away today at 82. Uh, so was the Godfather your defining James Caan moment, do you think? Or
I would say Misery for me personally. I mean, I've always gravitated towards, like, the Hitchcockian kind of thrillers growing up, and Misery hit a very specific special place for me, for sure.
it's hard to it's really weird. It's hard to explain. I mean, I'm glad you're aware of who he is, and you can talk about it. But I think a lot of younger people now, today's world, they really never really got to see James Caan at the height of his power,
No.
and he was a huge star.
And I think you
Huge.
see it in the response to the news. I don't see people flooding my timelines, with posts about it or RIPs or, I can't think of another someone to relate him to, but typically you see these huge celebrity deaths and these actor deaths, and you can't really escape the news. This one's been relatively quiet, at least from in my hemisphere. You know.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like I was a little bit surprised by that. Warm Strong Adventures first got into James Caan in the movie Brian Song. That is actually my favorite Brian James Caan role too. Is Brian Song.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. The monkey says James Caan was the best part about The Godfather. So yeah, I mean Sonny Corleone was. I don't think he played very much against type as Sonny because back in the '70s he was when they had tabloids and all that, he was always on the front page.
Yeah.
He was a firecracker when he was in his prime. I mean, he was bigger than life. He was one of those bigger than life stars. He did a lot of great films too.
Was
um
Quan Thief?
Thief, excellent.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thief. He did a Killer Elite
Hmm.
that was
Hmm.
really quite good. As he got older, he also did some really good roles too. I think he was it Married in Vegas or Honeymoon in Vegas. He played the I think he played the father of the bride. Or
Hmm.
no, he was competing for the bride. He was the older guy, the older boss. He was trying to compete with Nicolas Cage, I think it was.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Uh,
That sounds right.
Yeah, so it's another Titan gone. You know, it's another Titan gone, and they leave a legacy. That's the one good thing about when an older actor leaves, don't you think? Is the legacy. You can, you know, when that passes away, you can sit there and say, you know, I want to go see something that he's done, and or she has done, and then you can go back and do that.
It's the one of the upsides to the streaming digital age that we're in. I mean, he's his I'm assuming most of his filmography is just one click away. And you know, it is. It's kind of like
Yeah,
it's where the two kind of the circles cross over for the Venn diagram of like music. If an artist passed away, you have a whole discography that you can go back and explore. And then you realize the song that you've been listening to as a kid was completely remixed or sampled from this song. And you start to see, just like in acting or movies, you start to see these certain fingerprints that you can go back and work backwards. You see like, oh, that's Khan. Like these people are channeling Khan in this, you know. And so
yes, yes. You could, yeah. He definitely left his footprint. I mean, there's so many iconic movies that he did do. Monkey's mentioning Elf every year. Yeah, Elf.
oh, I don't know how I forgot about that. Holy crap, yes. And see, and that's such like a like you have to be so hardened in your career, in life as well, like you said, for you to be able to how do I put this? I guess you sort of marry it with life experience and you kind of calm down a little bit, but you learn how to really flip that switch. And in something like Elf, you're able to do so with such a an edge of charm to it, dare I say?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, he was amazing in Elf.
I mean,
That's
back in the '70s, he would have been playing the Peter Dinklage part.
right, exactly, exactly.
Uh, Thank you guys all for coming in. So let's get this thing cracking here. So Wet Denim Productions, obviously, you know that you and Madison have been doing this for how many years now?
We started in 2019, 2018. Okay, so we went to essentially, I'm trying to nutshell this. You know, it's kind of a part one, part two. I've dabbled in film for the better part of my adult life, on and off. Um, I had a video production company way back in the day. I had a band. The thing started taking off with the band. The video production company moved to New York. I stayed in Austin with the band. The band fell apart. I lost all my connections. You know, I'm trying to nutshell 10 years or so. But and then Madison and I we started dating. At that point, I was a little more jaded towards the industry and everything, and I thought, you know what, let me just try to be a screenwriter. And so I spent the better part of 3 or 4 years just like trying to get out there, get reps, and trying to just see what floats. And in the meantime, she and we would constantly frequent the Austin Film Fest.
Mm.
Um, and then 2018, we went to one of the Texas short programs, and you know how it is. You watch it, and you're seeing some shorts, and you're like, we we could do that at least, right? And that's what she did. We watched a Texas short program. It ended. She turned to me. She basically shook me and was like, "What are we doing? Like, you're writing, you're screenwriting, but you know, I have the filmmaking genetics in my DNA just through mere experience, and it's like we could do this. Like, why aren't we just making film?" And then that was the fire that lit under our butts, and
Were
that's when
you
it started.
were you trying to make your screenplay a feature length, or were you just writing to write just to hone your skills, or what was your goal when you were doing your screenwriting?
I mean, yeah, definitely features. I wanted to get repped. My goal is I just wanted to have a screenplay produced first and foremost, and then see what kind of career can be spurred out of it. But um, yeah, and then that, I mean, it essentially, I was on my fourth or fifth screenplay in, I don't know, 3 4 years of honestly attempting to make it happen. Whenever yeah, we just pivoted and decided to get our hands dirty and start from the ground up, and that's when Wet Denim was born.
Yeah, So what I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead. Not I'm doing now. What I'm going to do, because you mentioned something earlier right there about music, so I want to circle back to that.
Mhm.
Um, where were you born and raised at?
Born and raised in Houston, Texas.
Are you still Houston? Are you still Texas based?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't know how long, much longer with all the craziness going on, but no, we're trying to stick it out as much as we can, as much as it makes sense to.
Yeah. Now, what was it? Where would you, where were you, what was it like when you were growing up in your house? Your parents, I mean, what did you get involved with first, music or film? Because you mentioned you
That's
played music too.
uh, I mean, they all kind of blended and melded together for me, as a kid. But I definitely was more active in filmmaking. One Christmas, my dad got me a video camera, a little $300. I couldn't even tell you what it was, and I would just make silly home videos with my friends and this, that, and the third. And I would say, I started writing music to myself in junior high, but high school is whenever I started making mixtapes and trying to really like get that ball rolling as well. And then, things with the music stuff started taking off. I moved to Austin about around 2009, 2008, 2009. I lived in San Marcos for 3 years just so I could live in an apartment with my buddies that I grew up with. And at that point, I was working as a premiere extra for the third season of Friday Night Lights. And it's like, you have tons of extras that they would hire. But if you're a premiere, you're basically one of like 30 people that they would just like continually go to. And it became like a steady gig. And you're just surrounding yourself with like-minded people. I mean, you're surrounding yourself with, aspiring actors, directors, producers, screenwriters. And so that's how I met everyone that would eventually be Shoot Good Media, which was our first video production company. Yeah.
Now, what kind of music? What kind of music did you? What kind of music did you play when you were playing?
It was hip hop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, always, yeah, yeah. It's funny nowadays. Like everyone's a rapper, but the further back you go, when you're like, "Yeah, I'm a rapper," they're like,
Well, there are still some rather smooth R&B artists still playing around. I can tell you that.
"Yeah, for sure."
Once in the chat right now, which is a really good segue, which I did not plan, by the way. Did not plan that. Sarah, our friend Emotions in the house, and yeah, he plays R&B, plays some jazz,
Nice.
fine vocalist. So not everybody. Still some old school. Um, Now was it rock rap? I mean, it was something like that. Rap, sort of like sort of like a House of Pain type of deal.
Ish. It kind of mutated over the years. I was definitely like lyrical, miracle, spiritual. I was very lyrics forward at one point. And then as a solo artist, and then I met my buddy Ryan Montavo in San Marcos, and that's whenever we came together and made the group Dubworth. And that was kind of a very like acoustic meets boom bap, kind of like a kind of blending of the two completely different worlds and trying to stand out and make it work. And it was picking up some steam, relatively speaking. We did a lot of shows, and that was also how I would essentially sharpen the filmmaking sword, as I would write, direct, and produce all of our music videos. And so, I mean, I'm sure most of them are privatized right now, but there are plenty of examples of that out there somewhere on the internet's interwebs floating around. Got some old music videos out there.
Well, you know what, Texas is. You know this from being in Austin. I mean, Austin's like one of the top places to go to as far as both either making film or music. I mean, you that's one of the hottest places to go to. South by Southwest still remains its potency. It still has its potency. It's when I was in music, that's what I used to do. I used to sit there and go pour over the acts that were playing at South by Southwest.
Oh,
I like
you played at South by?
huh? Yeah, I was a talent buyer for 10 years.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool.
Uh, um, So I used to sit back there, kick back, and just read all the bands that would come through South by Southwest. And then if I saw them coming my way, I would call out and try to book, try to get a show with them. So
Nice.
that's a beautiful place to hone your chops at. And you grow up really fast. I mean,
Yes.
Austin, if you get a gig in Austin, I mean, even outside South by Southwest, that's that's not to be taken lightly. That's a really good place to play. The fans are razor sharp. I mean, if you go up there, it's lazy, they're going to get you for it.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I could definitely see how that hones your chops, and also your pen.
Hmm.
Now, how
Right.
old were you how did you get the gig on Friday Night Lights?
I think I just emailed the casting director my headshots, my resume. I knew I was moving to Austin. I was still living in Houston whenever I sent in that email, and I mean it was really just serendipitous. I'm assuming that they had the roster filled out, and then someone dropped out or something happened with someone else because they called me. I mean, like a week before the season started, and they're like, "Hey, do you want this gig?"
Cool.
And I just happened to be a week from moving to Austin. And so it's or San Marcos rather, and which for anyone who doesn't know, it's like a 20-minute drive down the highway I-35, and so it's right next door, little small college town, and
Right.
and so I actually had to go out to Austin and live out of a hotel for 4 days because just to be sure I was showing up on day one. Oh, and uh, yeah, and I'm sorry, what was the question? My dog just came
Did
in.
did you have to were you one of the players?
Yes. So I was
Oh,
like, they essentially they hire like college kids, college football players, arena football players to hit the field, and that's who they're actually filming during like the in-game action. And then we'd be on the sidelines and everything. And then whenever there's a huddle up, they would call me and several others to come through and then do the whole like, yeah, with their helmets on. And if there's a locker room scene, we'd get the call. If there was a classroom scene, hallway scene, party, house party, restaurant, you name it, really. So it's funny. You could actually like, I am more seen throughout the season with the helmet on in like alternating numbers than you would see me like bareface, but I'm
right.
I'm hidden in a lot of the scenes throughout the
Now,
majority.
did you tell them that you wanted to get on the field and play some football? It's just, put me in, coach. I'm
Oh
ready to
yeah.
play.
Oh yeah, especially back then, I was a gym rat. I had the physical, the body type for it, and it was the one with the most opportunity. Because they would hire hundreds of extras, but it was kind of like the stands essentially, and so you're there to kind of like fill a spot,
Right, right.
be a blur in the background. And so that's why they would have this like roster of 30 kids, which they would just rely on for, very specific scenes like a party or if I'm going to be surrounding a keg while as they walk past or whatever. But
Uh, did you ever get any lines out of it? How many seasons were you premiere?
just season three. I was so close so many times. But that's another thing is they basically farm talent. And so they would as long as you're not a jackass, is it okay to curse?
Oh yeah, by all means.
As long as you're not a jackass and you're a cool person, like you get in the good graces of certain people like the casting director or the first AD and all this and that. And then you would be provided an opportunity to go to the casting office and you could basically compete for a three and under. And I got to the finals between me and someone else at least three times. And then you go and you watch the episode and they just like gave the line to one of the main character dudes. So
Is a three under means three lines and under?
yeah, yeah. So if you get, at least back then, if you got three of those, you automatically got your SAG card. No one quote me on that. It's been a long time, but yeah. So that's what was like the end game goal is to really move up the ladder in that way.
Now, were you paying attention to everything that was going around you? At that time, because a lot of people, how old are you? 21, 22?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So a
20.
lot of people
I
would have
was like
been
20.
a lot of those people in that position would have been like, sort of starstruck, or they would have been looking all over the place. Did you focus on what was being done and how it was being done and how everybody conducted themselves on a set, or
Absolutely.
did that come a little later?
Absolutely. I mean, that's all. At the time, I would say, when I made the move, so I essentially I was pining to be an actor when I lived in Houston before making the move. And so my experience on Friday Night Lights is essentially what kind of planted the seeds for me to work behind the camera. And I was such a big fan at the time of Kevin Smith, and I admired how he wrote, he directed, he produced, he was in front of the camera, he was behind the camera. I loved the idea of just having that much responsibility on a set and kind of being the, no pun intended, the quarterback of everything. And so through my experience on Friday Night Lights, is you kind of see behind the curtains, and it really just like pours a fuel of motivation and inspiration. And I would have been in the fourth season. However, that's when me and several others kind of banded together and said, hey, let's just, instead of fighting to win roles, let's just make our own roles. And then we got together, put our heads together. We made a web series. We would make short films, or what at the time was more like YouTube sketches. And little by little, that just like slowly mutated to me becoming more of a creative, rather an actor or a performer, rather.
Yeah, I guess you could sort of say that you sort of got the fever. Here you are, you're seeing how it's done. You're there for the whole season. It's 20, 22, 20. Was it? Well, I think Friday Night Lights had a little bit bumpier production schedule, right? They didn't do full seasons, did they? Didn't they sort of like did like 16 or 18?
No, I mean, well, maybe for the fourth season. I know things started getting weird, and they kind of started pivoting in different directions after that. Maybe it was the fourth season was whenever things really started kind of, they're shaking it up a bit. But yeah, it was amazing. It was everything you could possibly ask for, because it's a crash course. You're seeing the things that you should be doing. You're seeing the things from others that you definitely should not be doing. You meet an amazing cast of characters, for better or worse. You meet the actual cast of characters on the show, and you see how they compose themselves, for better or worse. And you walk away with so many stories, again, for better or worse. So I don't want to put anyone on blast, but like one person I will put on a mantle is Jesse Plemons. Just amazing. He was amazing. I mean, he was the most down to earth. He got it. He was a human. He took part in all the pranks that we would be doing with the extras and having fun and this and that. And then of course you would have some that would kind of thinking they were too good, too cool for school, so to speak. And let me shut that off. And
I hope that wasn't Kyle Chandler, because I really like him.
Kyle's amazing. My mom was obsessed with him like throughout the years, and so I got him to take a picture for my mom's birthday. He took a picture with a sign saying, "Hey, Christine, call me," and she just got a kick out of that. And so that was one of the favorite gifts from me. So
nice. I like that. Sometimes you always hear about that on sets, especially from background or features. They always sit there and say, like, don't make eye contact with the star, don't talk with the star, don't do, don't be in their scene, don't be in their sight line or whatever. You always hear all those people like that. But honestly, the vast majority of people sit there and say that the big stars, so to speak, were some of the nicest people that they dealt with.
And something. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And something interesting that I haven't quite put together until now is, this is 2009. I mean, this was right before the social media firestorm that we're all living in right now. And I would say it's probably maybe one of the last kind of eras where they weren't always putting their best foot forward for social media's sake. And so I would say, like, we did have some some like pompous, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but yeah, we had some people who were like that, who was like I had friends fired over the most ridiculous things, and it stemmed from one particular actor. And then you had others who had they were well intended, but they were the type that would, like, for your birthday, they'd give you an autographed headshot or something, those types.
Okay.
And then, but again, you have the Jesse Plemons of the world, and I mean, he was amazing. I love Jesse to this day.
So that sounds like it was a yeah. I'm sorry about your friends. I mean, I've heard some stories about that too. That really sucks. But I don't know how that is or why that happens, but I know it has, and I mean, when I heard, it's one of some of those things where you hear and you just don't believe it, because it's like, why would anybody actually lose their job just for saying hi to somebody as they're walking by?
Right.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right?
Yeah.
You walk by that person, you don't say anything, and then they sit there and say, why isn't he saying anything to me? Was he think is he being an asshole? Does he think I'm an asshole? Then it's like, okay, well, how if I say hi? And it's like, well, you're not really supposed to talk to the talent. And then it's like, well, and again, it's a good, powerful lesson to learn, as a filmmaker, how to run a set, things you're going to do that you won't do, things that you saw that you're not going to take with you down the road.
Right.
So what was your first production company?
It was Shoot Good Media. It was kind of just mostly, to pay the bills. We were mostly doing industrial stuff, testimonials, interviews, filming live events, speeches, all the boring stuff that, you're either nodding off in the back of the room, or you're nodding off at the editing desk. So, but it was anything. It was just us trying to find the steps to expand and grow and eventually get to like filmmaking. Of course, like our sites was always on to do features, but we never got around to it.
The monkey is, like, I tell you, he's one of our greatest fans here. He really is. He mentions this, since he worked with the coach of Friday Night Lights, which was Kyle Chandler. Could he get you an autograph or interview with Millie Bobby Brown, since he worked with? You know what though?
No.
You know what? It's the connections, right? It's all about the small world, right? I didn't even think about that, but it is a small world, right?
No, if I walked up to Kyle, he'd be like, "Who are you?" No, he would. And I don't blame him for it. I mean, I was one of many faces, and Kyle, if anything, he was just a super top-notch professional. He was always like working on his craft. So it's like if there was downtime, he was off to the side, like running lines. Like he was not fooling around at all. But anytime like it called for it, he was a gentleman. He was very nice. He was very open and accommodating. He just didn't like hang out with us or anything. But
so the first production company. Now, did you put anything on film for the first company?
Things that don't exist. I mean, I couldn't find, we did a couple music videos for other artists and bands. Like I said, our main project was a web series called Two Guys, One Apartment. And it was it was right whenever It's Always Sunny came out. And so that was a massive influence. And I think it was like very clear that how much of an influence that was. But that was like the first time that, we had an investor, we had a budget, we had equipment, we were shooting out of our apartment, and like our neighbors and the friends in the apartments would walk by, and we had all these trucks and we had all this shit that was just like, we had no business having any of this. It's so funny because it was, looking back, it was, relatively speaking, it was so easy to find the money that we found for that project then. But we had no clue what we were doing with it. We had no idea. And it was just like, now, after years and years and years of experience, you actually have a grip on what's going on. You actually have a mind for the craft. Now it's like, yeah, you got to sell your left arm for $5, and so
Right.
ironically,
You just want to go back there and say, that money you let me have like 10 years ago. I was just wondering if it's still in the bank because I like to make a little.
no, that money was well spent way back then.
You could bring out a little. You can get a piece of paper on it and said budget 101. I graduated with a degree in budget 101. You can handwrite this and on a piece
Yes,
of paper, and then take it back to your investor. Like I know what to do with it now.
yes, please trust me this time. No, it was a shitstorm. It was fun. It was an experience. We at least, I mean, we were cross shooting, and so I think we had 6 or 8 episodes that we were trying to fill out for the first season, and we would just like, any given day we'd be shooting scene 3 and 4 from episode 2, and then scene 7 and 5 from episode 4, and this, that, and the third. And it was insane. It was insanity. But it was fun. It was an experience. We learned very quick, very hard, and it was great. I mean, overall, it was an eye-opening experience in that, you could, it made everything feel obtainable, plausible, like this could actually happen, this could be a thing, and which was, just a great thing to have in general, especially at that time and age. You're like, guys, we could do this, and it kind of really poured the fuel of motivation and everything. Yeah.
Now, had any of you had any training at all? Have any of you been to school for any of this, or was this all stuff that you just thought you could just pick up and do it yourself?
My buddy Emmett Perkinson, who's in New York right now, he shoots on like Netflix productions. He went to UT Denton, I believe. They had a school out there where he did film school, and so he was always kind of my wise eagle. He would put me under his wing, and I mean, I just jumped in blind. I had YouTube videos. I was a YouTuber in Houston before moving, and I had a relatively, I was making money through YouTube back. I was one of the first enlisted on the AdSense program whenever they enrolled it, and so I'm talking like '07. And so
Saw your YouTube page. You still got a viable page there. Do you still maintain it? Still use it at all?
just for whenever we have shorts, very seldomly, random things. I have like a side art business that's very heavily influenced and entrenched in film and TV, and so it makes sense to include that content. But no, not so much. Just mostly completed works when and if we ever get them done. I mean, that's basically the last like film thing was why haven't they fixed the cameras yet? And then we're going to upload, of course, Man Seeking Man once it hits its public release date.
Yeah, because that's still festival, right? Right, you're still in festival with that.
Right. Yeah, we just left Oklahoma City for Dead Center. That was an amazing experience, and Madison and I were going on our baby moon to Costa Rica Monday, actually, and then when we get back, we're getting back just in time to go to the Deep and the Hard Film Festival in Waco.
Okay. Let's see. We got one other question about Friday nights. Here's a great question. When you left the set, did you take anything from the set or wardrobe? Don't think you probably did that.
I don't think so. I'm trying to think if there's any cheeky items.
That would be hard to do.
Yeah, it would have to be like the end of the season. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. One dude was fired because he snuck away from the group and he hopped in the snack van essentially, and he just went through and just like chowing down on some sandwiches and everything way before we're cut for lunch or anything, and he got caught in the van red-handed, and he got fired right away. And yeah, there's so many memories from that.
Wow. All right. Yeah, crazy in the sun. Hey, Charles, how are you? Hi, Cody Ray, how are you? We're talking.
I just realized I could click over and see the comments. I've been on the private chat this whole time. I'm like, where are you seeing these comments? But okay,
yeah,
I see it. Now I see it. What's up, y'all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That sounds pretty funny. Maybe he went crazy in the sun, crazy in the heat. Um, so you actually the first production company went, and then what did you do? Is that when you decided that? Is that when you met Madison about that time when the first production ended?
No, it was some time after that. I right when Shoot Good was, we had the ball rolling on that. I met Brian Montavo, and we actually went to high school, but we didn't really hang out that much until San Marcos. And then he had a band in high school that I was a big fan of, and then I found out that he just like randomly started producing hip hop beats, and he sent me a beat, and I was like, okay, like where the hell did this come from? And then I mean, it was just like clockwork. Ever since then, we were glued to each other. The band stuff started really taking off. We started doing a lot of shows, and it built to the point where I had to make a decision. I needed to go, if not full time. Really, I was kind of forced a decision because they wanted to move to New York, but I mean, everything was going so you know fast with the music thing. I couldn't pass it up. And then of course, shit happens, and people grow in separate directions. And then, long story short, the everything came collapsing down with the music stuff. And then, so she met me right after Ryan and I split, and I was trying to still make it work as a solo artist. And she would, yeah, we started talking when I was filming one of my last music videos. So yeah, there's that on the timeline, which was, I don't know, let me see, had to be where are you at?
Anything for me?
No, sorry, I'm filling dead air trying to get a specific date on this, or causing dead air rather.
No, no, no. You're fine.
This was so one of my last final music videos was in June and August, and so that's whenever we kind of made it official right around that time. Sorry, June and August of 2013. That does absolutely nothing as far as filling you in, but 2013. There you go.
Looks like a secret source has just come in there and said 2014. Thank you. This new person, Madison Phillips, came in there and said that.
Who the hell is that? I don't know.
I don't know. Must be a music insider, maybe. I've heard about those. You filmmakers. Now, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on this. This person might have more information. Welcome to the show, Madison. Glad you're here. We're talking to Travis White, one half of the Wet Denim Productions.
Yes.
So now, yeah, music is beast. Now, I bet you agree with me about this, though, right? Music and movies, they pretty much are seamless, aren't they?
For sure. Oh yeah, definitely.
That's one thing that really surprised me more than anything else. When I started getting into doing interviews and stuff like that, and start talking to people, it was so easy because it's like you're not really doing much different from making movies than making music. It's
Right.
a lot of hurry up and stand in line. That sort of deal. Nothing gets done overnight. It takes time to put it together and to get it out to the public. Your creativity, the art, the writing aspect, the whole ball of wax. It's not much different. That was probably the one thing that really surprised me when I started doing this was how easy it was to talk to filmmakers when I actually had zero idea how to make a movie, which I still do.
Mhm.
I still have no idea how to make a movie. I do know that I use a digital camera, and that's probably the only thing I know for sure. And I know the editor is the most important part of a movie. That those are the only two things that I've learned so far.
What was that second part?
The editor controls the movie. It's the heart of the movie.
Yes, he is the invisible life force for a film. And for anyone out there who is a filmmaker and has not dabbled in editing, I can't implore you to do so. It's such an experience in that it shapes your mind and mental and execution for everything that comes after it. I mean, you learn so much in the edit that you wouldn't otherwise. And I to the point, I think it's insane that people do not edit their own films, or at least once or twice, or at least try, at least like,
Right.
have the experience, because it really does it will inform how you go about, you how you go about your next shoot, how you go about being on set, how you go about plotting and the shot
I,
list and all this and that.
I will say this much because we talked to a film director editor named Sean Kane. I will say this, especially for new directors. If I'm not really, yes, you want to make a pass at it. Directors should always make a pass at their movie. They definitely should.
Mhm.
I feel as far as editor goes, though, if I could, I know there are some that are just dedicated solely to editing. That's all they do is just do editing, and they're awesome at it, and they're great. But I think that if you get an editor that's also has been a director, I think you should always go with that.
For sure. For sure. I
Um,
mean, it's a whole, skill set. It's a whole bag of tools that whenever you marry them together, it makes a difference. It really does.
Hi, Elma. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. We do have another. The monkey comes up with some fun questions. Okay, he's got one for you, and actually, it's sort of related to the question, to your story about your friend getting that guy getting hooked. What's been the best craft table you've had?
Friday Night Lights, hands down. I'll tell you why. Okay, so you essentially have the football games where they have hundreds of people on set. You have hundreds of people. And so of course when lunch rolls around, they basically like pack everybody in these circus tents, and you're getting like, sloppy joes or something. It's huge pallets of lasagna, which is great. It's great. It does a trick. However, whenever you are on the sets and like you're doing like, the more intimate shots at a house party, or just a scene in the locker room
You're not
that
allowed to eat.
I'm sorry.
You're not allowed to eat because you can't
Oh,
get anything in your on your wardrobe.
no, you're allowed to eat, but whenever it's a more intimate setting, that's when they bring out the real meals. I mean, we had quail. That was my first time I ever ate quail. I didn't know quail was a thing to eat. You would have. I mean, it was just like I can't remember all the other different meals, but it was like that's whenever they brought out like the gourmet chefs, and I mean, it was hands down the best craft that I've ever had or been able to enjoy on any set. So of course, it boils down to an NBC production and budget, but definitely nothing has come close to beating that.
You can connect by just oh, here you go. Let me drop Travis down first. Should I drop your Instagram first, Travis?
Sure, whatever works. Instagram, the YouTube channel. They can definitely see some of the older material there, as well as our first Madison and I's first short. Why haven't they fixed the cameras?
I'm gonna put all that information down after we're done talking. But for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and drop it into the chat now so people can check it out. So
For sure.
I'm gonna drop your Instagram since you're far more active on there.
For sure.
For right now, though, I do think that you probably will get more busy with YouTube, especially once the little one gets here. Everybody likes to show their little one off. Um,
Yeah.
are you gonna have a little boy or a little girl?
Little boy, big boy. Like
Uh-huh.
I told you, he's in the 94th percentile of size and weight right now. So he is putting Madison through the ringer. And yeah, I was always a big kid growing up, and so he's definitely taken after me in that department.
Do you have a name for him yet?
Olin.
Olin. Okay.
Olin.
Uh,
Olin. We wanted something unique, something cute, but not something too out there like Candle or something crazy. But
or Apple or something like that.
yeah, precisely. Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
okay. So now you and Madison, you met. Now, does she have a background in film as well, or was she also a background in music?
No, she had a background in neither. She did a little media, took some media classes in college, but she's like, she comes from a sales background, and man,
Promotion.
yeah, and it translates. Like she wheels and deals, and she becomes the life force of every production. She gets, I almost said shit. She gets things done, and you know, I don't know if anyone, I the analogy I put it is like you look at the LeBron Miami Heat teams, and of course you cite LeBron and Bosh and Wade. Madison was the Shane Battier, if anyone gets the reference. Without Shane Battier, they don't get those championships. Period.
Right.
And so she did all the intangibles that just like made everything come together and work, and for sure, yeah.
Welcome, Jag. Welcome to the show. You're new here. Thank you so much for coming in. It's okay, Elma. I'll be dropping all his information down below after the show's over with. So if you want to sub to my channel, I will go ahead and contact you when I do it, and you can come over and follow Travis and Madison's journey for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of new people here tonight. This is a lot of first timers. I'm really this is really great. This is pretty awesome actually. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, promotion. See, that's what I mean. Promotion for me, I'm all about promotion. I mean, you know this from being music, right? I mean, it was the first thing. First thing was getting a gig, but what was the second thing? Most important thing? Promoting it. Because what does it really matter if you're making music if you're playing in front of nobody? So I'm about promotion, and I do believe me and Madison ended up talking first.
Mhm.
I want to say it was through email. I think
Mhm.
she contacted me through my blog on email and said, "Hey, I got a new movie, or a short film, because I review shorts." And she sent me the link to how come they haven't fixed the cameras yet. And yeah, that's how I first heard about you guys.
That's right.
Um, yeah, awesome. We're gonna be talking about that video here in a minute. That short film, a masterpiece, actually.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. No, that's not blowing smoke up your ass either. I'm just telling you straight up. That's an amazing short.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay, I'll take it.
so you and Madison met. You guys, she had no background. I mean, you must have shared your dreams with her. That you said, I want to be a filmmaker. I'm writing screenplays. But she's the one that told you basically that, hey, you can sit here and write all you want, but that's not getting anything done.
Exactly.
So now that you had a little bit of more experience underneath your belt, what it was the camera, was that one of your screenplays all by yourself, or did that come from somebody, or whose idea was it to do that short?
So initially, the game plan. I mean, as I'm sure you know, and many out there know, that screenwriting, it can be a very time-consuming endeavor. It becomes like the snake that just eats its own tail, and it just keeps going. You just re-edit and you re-edit and re-edit. So obviously, a uh, it is a lot easier to take someone else's work and make it into your own. And so we both sought for short stories that we could easily adapt within our budget. And in that, we scoured the likes of like Reddit, and there's a subreddit. Are you familiar with Reddit at all?
I don't really like Reddit. There's a lot of arrogance there, but I know about it. Yeah, I
Sure.
mean, I'm okay. It's
It's If you know how to navigate it, it could be a massive tool in your tool bag. But you're absolutely correct. It's a minefield as far as the wrong people.
Yeah,
And
you can't even promote. I mean, you can't even comment in a group without knowing. Next thing you know, your ass is outside and you have no idea how it happened.
Mhm.
It's like, wow, okay, I
Well,
guess.
there's a subreddit. I think it's called Short Scary Stories. Short Scary Stories. Scary. It's either Short Scary Stories or Scary Short Stories.
Okay.
And I came across a short story. I believe it was like, "Why is it so dark in here?" and it was just, it was short and sweet to the point, but the way it was written in such a way that it forced the reader to, instead of showing, not telling, or rather telling, not showing, it really kind of it forced the reader to connect its own dots, and almost it allowed the reader to mislead themselves. So it wasn't like she was like using any tactics to kind of like, swindle the reader or anything. The way it was written was so cleverly put together that you misled yourself, in a way like, it's been so long since I read it. In a way, it was like, as it pertains to why haven't they fixed the cameras yet? She opens the car door and gets inside. What do you think? You assume she got into the passenger door. When it is revealed, she got in the back door. But in that, just the way that it's worded and delivered to you, you go, oh yeah, okay, so she's in the driver's seat. When the fact is she's behind, she's in the back seat. And so little things like that. And then of course it kind of like allowed you to string yourself along to the end. And then she pulls that rug from underneath your feet and go, oh my God. And so I read that, and one of the things I think when it comes to filmmaking and telling the stories, or the scripts, or choosing a script that you want to shoot, you need to find something that really truly resonates with you, not, ooh, is this going to resonate with other people? Ooh, is this the trend? We were finding stories that genuinely made us feel some type of way. And so the end game and the goal was, can we translate this kind of self-reader sabotage kind of twist? If we could translate that from written to visual, and kind of just do the same tricks but visually, then hopefully it makes such a bigger, gut punch at the end. And so that was like the MO. And yeah, that was it. So I basically just adapted it into short format, and kind of made it to where it was more of a visual mystery than what you get in the short story.
Well, I think it's pretty brave, actually. To tell you the truth, I got to commend you on this. Excuse me, 1 second. Considering 1 second, considering that, even writing for all your screenplays, and then when you did come up to the first film, you did adapt the story from somebody else. You had, that's signs of a real growth right there, because there had to be a big temptation to sit there and say, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to get my own story out. But for you to be able to take a step back and realize that that's not really, it's not really feasible right now. So let me pivot and grab somebody else's story, adapt it, just so I can just so I can make a movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's kind of the best of both worlds. If you read the short story, which I can link you to, I just got to find it, but you could definitely see there's a clear difference in the two in how it's executed. And so it kind of does, it leaves, obviously if you get a script and it's, perfect, 10 out of 10, and you just want to do as much justice to the words on the page as possible, that's a different story. But same goes for Man Seeking Man. For me to really scratch that itch, I had to make it kind of my own in some way. But again, it's easier to take a finished product and kind of like mold and mix it and bend it to your liking than it is to like come from scratch. And, then you get self-indulgent, and then it becomes long on the tooth. And then, it's actually easier for me to take like a 15-minute or 15-page script, find what I want most out of it, and kind of, slice it in half. Whereas if I'm starting from the ground up, that 15-page script is going to wind up being 40 pages. Like it's inevitable every single time.
How many pages was your first for a camera?
For camera was, her story, it was very short, very concise, more so with this example. The script for the short was 3 pages.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how did you really like the experience of doing a short film? As you were going along, did you start to realize that one, this is perfect cut, this is perfect on the job training, and two, were you really surprised to see how hard it was? To do, because short stories have a beginning, the middle, and the end just as much as anybody else.
Yeah. No, I was not surprised at all. I mean, again, I come from some background of filmmaking, whether it's music videos or this or that or a web series. So I knew firsthand that, and I always warned Madison, I was like, listen, the movie gods are, they love to torment. Like the movie gods, they love to fuck with you. Like they will, like, you can do everything under the sun to ensure you're going to have the most ideal, perfectly crafted and plotted and planned production. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna throw a curveball that you're gonna have to pivot or adapt or change. Um, Ironically enough, we entered with the mentality and preparation of like this could be, we're gonna duke it out with the movie gods. But crazy enough, I mean, this was one of the smoothest shoots and productions I've ever experienced. Why haven't they fixed the cameras yet? Whereas like the second one, again, we went in with the same mindset of like, and then sure enough, like the movie gods was like, oh, you think that's gonna be as simple as the first one? Nah. And so we had our fair share of
And the
challenges.
thing is, the first one is, honestly, the first one is so deep. It's so deep that you would, if I showed that movie to anybody, it didn't say anything about it, and I sit there and say, "Tell me what you think about this movie." I can rest assured, Travis. I can promise you this. Everybody would have thought that. Everybody would have thought a well seasoned, experienced director
Oh wow.
had did that movie.
Thank you.
Nobody would believe me if I said this is their debut. This is it. This is our first movie, because they don't really come out of the box like that. And this is why I'm a huge advocate for short film, because I feel like if you can knock out a short film, if you could do 2 or 3 short films and cut your teeth at doing so, then you're ready for feature.
For
I think
sure.
the wrong thing a lot of directors do wrong is to do a feature. I can't
Oh,
tell you. I would just over and over and over. Well, I got $5 million. I'm going to do a feature. Don't do that. Take $200,000 of that. Take a little bit. Take a couple of short films. Cut your teeth.
hell,
Uh,
take $10,000. Take
take yeah,
2,000. Why haven't they fixed the cameras yet? That was $2,000.
two
Like that was,
thousand, and it looks
yeah.
and it looks so much bigger than that. It looks so much bigger.
Thank you.
What was it like casting that film? Where did you get your
Uh,
casting?
Casting. So, the whole thing was, and I'll back up some. When we initially found the short story to adapt, the mindset was this is exercise. Like we had no kind of lofty ideals of like a certain level of quality. Of course, we're going to shoot for the most or best quality that we could possibly afford to pull off. But the mental behind it was, hey, by any means necessary. If we have to shoot it on an iPhone, if we have to grab our friends to act in it, so be it. And so I think everything just kind of serendipitously came together. And once we got that ball rolling, it would we would find ourselves graduating to another level, so to speak, in that,
Mm.
for instead of hiring friends, we were like, oh, we're in contact with these improv actors at Cold Town Theater. It's like we could knock on their door, and now we have that inside. And then little by little, things just started coming together. Again, we're like, if we have to, we'll shoot it on our iPhone. And then lo and behold, Ryan Kuehl, who was our neighbor, who we had been living next door for 2 years at this point in time, we had no idea that he worked in film. And so that's how we were able to get our equipment. And so we graduated from, potentially shooting on an iPhone to shooting on a C300. And so then he brought out his buddy from California. I'm brain farting on his name. I'm so sorry, Cameron, and now we're starting to have like actual legit crew surrounding us. And so if we're not the most knowledgeable people in the room, we're surrounding ourselves with people who are, and people who do know a shade or a level higher than we do. And so everyone just came together and elevated it. And so with all that, that's when I thought, you know what? Shit, we could. Lee Eddy, who plays the woman, she's one of my favorite actresses. She's Austin based. I've followed her whenever I was trying to be an actor. I acted in a feature that she was in called Man from Orlando, and this was like 10 years ago. And she blew me away. And she's married to Macon Blair, if you're familiar. And I'm a massive fan of Macon Blair. I had no idea that they were married until the year before we casted her, and so the way all these things came together, and I was like, you know what, let's just shoot our shot. That's what I think we learned most at the time, is that it doesn't hurt to ask. Like, sure, you could just be prepared to take the no, because you're going to get a shit ton of no's throughout this process. But what harm is a no going to do? And so I reached out to her on Twitter, and I was like, hey, I have this idea. Like, I've been a fan of yours. I cited things that I've seen her, and I, in my time in Austin and paying attention and keeping my ear to the scene. And she said, send me the script. And I sent her the script, and she was like, cool, let's do it. And so it was like, just like that. And I mean, she's like such a phenomenal talent. And she was able to do so much with the character with as little time that she had to run with it. She just elevated. And so before you know it, we look around and we have like a legit crew. We have legit equipment. We have legit actors. And Luke, who plays Devin, he was in several like television episodes, and that was all just kind of like casting the nets online through Facebook or there's certain websites that unfortunately went down with with COVID. They kind of closed shop, but there used to be quite a few resources online that you can go and kind of fish for some talent and cast. And yeah, little by little, it all came together.
So you took that to the festival. That was like your first experience doing a festival, right?
For sure. Yeah.
What's the festival? What's the ordeal like? I mean, how does the process work?
Right now, these days, it's all Film Freeway. You just get a Film Freeway account. You sign up. Everything is aggregated. Every festival that matters and the festivals that don't matter. I mean, from the highest tier to the lowest tier, it's all available and on Film Freeway. So you get
is that a paid site or a free site?
It's a free site, but you have benefits if you become a member, like a paid member. You get certain benefits, certain discounts, and this, that. But ultimately, I mean, it's free in that you can utilize it, but you're always going to have to, mostly, obviously, there are some free submissions for festivals, but for the most part, you're paying a submission fee. And so that's another thing. If you have a budget, you need to allocate a certain amount that is going to go towards festivals, because those bills can rack up quick. I mean, I would say the actual budget for production was $1,300, but there's at least $700 spent for festivals or post festivals, this, that. But so yeah, you submit and you just basically kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best. Of course, you want to do your research on each festival. If you have a horror festival, you're not going to want to send it to, or rather a horror short, you're not going to want to send it to like, a nature festival, which is out there, unless of course your horror takes place in the woods or something. But
what did you send what did you send it under? Did you send it underneath mystery or noir, or did you send it underneath horror,
or thriller for the most part? Thriller mystery, yeah. And that was another thing, you kind of have to figure out what box your film best sits in. Even with Man Seeking Man, it's such a hard to peg. It's not any specific genre, and there's several beats throughout that kind of like will shift it from this genre to that. And once you hit the end, you're like, oh shit, so this is what it is. But to get you to that point, it's hard to kind of like package and really put a label on it. And so at that point, we would send it to people and friends and other filmmakers who were like, what would you say? Is this thriller? Is this mystery? Is this drama? And yeah, and ultimately, why haven't they fixed the cameras yet was a thriller for sure.
So
That was
let's
a
talk a
long
little.
to label,
Let's
but
talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about that, about your next feature after that, um, um, because you must have found it different, a little bit, more. You must have found it just a little, he said it wasn't, but I mean, but you had more experience. Man Seeking Man. I mean, that's, there's your second project. You filmed it during 2020, so that was what, COVID, right? Did you film
right.
it during COVID? So how is that? Was that the main hard part about getting the movie made, or
So
was it?
actually, our production for Man Seeking Man, we had initially it was a 3-day shoot. The actors that we were working with were so phenomenal and so great, and we just extended the shoot. We're like, we gotta sit and let it breathe in these scenes because the performances they were giving us was just like amazing, and more than we could have possibly asked for. And so we really wanted we decided to instead take our time. So we stretched the 2 to 3 day shoot into 4 to 5 days. And on our final day, right before, was whenever the lockdown hit. And so we were actually interrupted, which was, you know, uh, which was a gift and the curse because you take that time to edit what you have, you start to get a better idea of how to execute what you want to execute. You start to get a better idea of like, oh, this would tie together better this way. And so actually when you watch it, and thankfully no one has noticed, but when you see what you're seeing is actually there's a 7-month gap that's spliced in between. You're seeing 2 different shoots with 7 months in between. And like it takes place in the woods. And so in certain shots you see that it's like very sparse and brown and soil and then all of a sudden it's this plush beautiful greenery and but thankfully no one has noticed and it's fun pointing that out and you see the of that but well,
Well, there's been I've known movies that have been taking between 2 to 5 years to finish,
right.
and you go back there and you watch them, and I mean, there's some scenes you instantly know that the time frame, there's a time frame, there's a time difference, but sometimes you don't see it.
Yeah,
you know
and sometimes it's impossible not to see it. I'm looking
yeah.
at you, Superman's mustache in Justice League.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, I couldn't shave it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I couldn't shave it because he was doing
Mission
Mission
Impossible.
Impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh So the 7 months isn't that much of a gap, right? I mean, during that time frame where I'm sure you were working at it. Um, Now after this, this is also another film that you yourself didn't write. You adapted, right?
Right. So this one was we actually again we found it on Reddit. However, this was instead of a short story, it was a short screenplay that we found. There's another subreddit. It's called Produce My Script, which is amazing. I highly recommend everyone just check it out at the very least. So the concept of it is if I'm a filmmaker or rather a screenwriter and I just want to see my work come to life, I would go there, I would post it, I would say, hey, I have a 5-page thriller. Has 2 locations, 3 characters, you know, in this time period, blah, 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 blah. And then you just put it out there. And then eventually someone may or may not come along and say, hey, I'm a producer, I can do this, I can do that. Or likewise, if you are a producer and you're in the search of something to shoot, you would go and either fish and find a screenplay that someone's posted, or you as a producer would post and say, hey, I have $20,000. I have a cabin in the woods. Does anyone have a romantic thriller, script? That's what we're looking for. And then sure enough, you start to get people that's kind of like throwing in their script and in the ring and seeing what works. And so we found Michael LaRusso's screenplay, also titled Man Seeking Man, and I fell in love with it. It was very thematic to what we were dealing with at the time. We had our friend Ryan pass, and so that had a lot of influence in us choosing the script. And we found it. We reached out to Michael, and turned out someone already had the rights to it, but they had been sitting on it for like a year. And so we were almost gearing up to shoot another script when Michael hit us up and was like, "Hey, good news, it's yours. And you know, going back to the festival thing, so I think you mentioned something, you know, asking how we were able to get this off the ground, and we weren't able to for 7 months. We had been, you know, at this point, I'll say Ryan Kuehl was our neighbor. He was who passed, but he was also our connect for everything. Like he was our equip guy. He was
Oh,
the guy.
the guy from the first movie, he passed.
Right, right. And
Oh, was that from COVID?
no, this is before COVID. He took his own life, unfortunately. And so the 7 months is like, this is like 2019. Um, and and this is also my pitch that everyone needs to also highly consider their own local and regional festivals. You know, certain pockets of the industry or the internet, you'll have people who are naysayers towards, very kind of bitter towards festivals, and they're like, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, it's all a scam. No, you just got to do your research. The waste of time and the scams, they are out there, believe me.
Yeah,
But you just got to do your due diligence and do your research. And especially if it's your first short, it's not going to hurt you to really dive in deep with some local lower tier festivals, you know.
I would just tell anybody doing a festival is just look for longevity. You know, don't do anything that's underneath 5 years. You know, if you really want to make sure it's legit,
Right.
you know, you submit it to any festival over 5 years. Submit it to them because you know they've been around for 5 years. They know what they're doing. If it's
Right,
somebody sitting there second or third, or this is our debut, we want you to be a part of it. No, you don't want to do that. You want to go there where someone is established and knows what they're doing.
exactly. And even then, you'll find your 20 years and going, and you know, you dive deeper and you find out that they are full of crap and they are just a money making machine. And you know,
Yeah,
I'll tell you one of the tall tale signs. If you go to a film freeway, you go to their film festival, you know, page, and you see that they have 50 awards that they hand out.
yeah.
That's a red flag. Like they're in it to basically pull you in hook, line, and sinker. They want your submission fees. They want you to come out because hey, you're going to get this plastic, you know, trophy, which you know could be great, but I mean,
Participation trophy.
exactly. And you know, especially once you get there and you really kind of sniff it out, you're like, oh, okay. But I think it's worth, especially on your first short film, it's worth taking the experience. So you do get to uh, better identify those scents, and so you could sniff it out beforehand. But again, so like we had in 2019, we were coming right off the heels. We just finished. We wrapped up. Why haven't they fixed the cameras in March? At this point, we're editing. At this point, we're gunning for premiering in Austin Film Fest, which is in November, which we didn't get in. We wound up world premiering at Memphis, Indie Memphis, which is amazing. It was a great first experience, but that's a whole nother story. However, the time in between of March and aiming to premiere in November was whenever we were trying to get this second film up and running. And for one reason or another, we could not find anyone interested. We could not get anyone to buckle down with us. And, you know, whether that's a DP or a producer or whatever, what have you, we couldn't find anything to stick with anyone. And so we went to a very local Austin Film Fest called Austin Spotlight. And we won Best Twist, we won Audience Choice, and that's how we met Chris Beyer. Chris Beyer, who also had a short in the festival, he walked up, shook his hand, gave us his card, said he loved a short. We realized which short he did. And that's another thing is like, man, you meet so many people on these festivals where you shake hands, you become great friends, they're great people, but then you go home and you watch their stuff and, you know, it's not good at all. And yeah, you know, so Chris was actually like, we got home, we watched his everything that was available online, and we're like, this guy talked to us. We're like, holy shit, Chris, what? And so he was asking, you know, what we met for coffee or a beer, and he's like, what scripts do you have available? And so we sent him Man Seeking Man. 2 weeks later, we're on set. 2 weeks later, we're shooting. And so it's just like that, without this regional, you know, a festival, which was great. However, I already know, I could already see, you know, the comments on Reddit saying like, no, stay away from festivals like that. But it's like, without that Man Seeking, I don't know if Man Seeking Man would have ever came to be. I think we had the grit and the you know, the motivation to make it happen, but it would have never came together as it did. And now Chris is just as much of a partner to us as Madison and I, you know, and so it's just been this amazing film relationship that all came from a local festival.
Sure.
And so yeah.
Now you're getting ready to do your first feature.
Yes. So
Now that's in pre-production. How far along in pre-production are you? Are you know, because and how will it affect you? You know, how will you know be you know having your son? How will that affect how you approach this film and filming it?
Pat, it is
Question.
it is how do I put this? It's
Fun?
real fucking it's fucking hard. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
And as hard as making shorts can be, you know, a feature is just a whole nother sport. And I mean, if we had it our way, we would have 3 features right now. We had spent the entire year of the lockdown prepping for our first feature, which would have been called Lady Tarantula Hawk, and it would have been shot. We had the location, we had the majority of the cast filled. We were slated to shoot in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, October of 2021, and we got married in April. And the second we walked through the door, you know, I mean, we had everything lined up. We had investors, we had the money, we had the majority of the cast, we had the crew, and last second, as soon as we got home from our wedding, we got the news that everything fell through, that the location was no longer available, and the script was so intrinsically tied to this house, this unique location, that it literally, you couldn't just pick it up and plop it down in any other location.
Did they say what happened to the house?
It was some dispute with the homeowner and his brothers, and I think their mother passed away, and then they had this huge like legal kind of back and forth, and he was just like, I can't wait, we can't, you know, they were in no place to make it happen. And so I mean,
Mm.
that was a year, a full year of prep and getting ready and writing, and I mean, that was our life, was that year leading up to that, and then just like that, it was all yanked from underneath us. And so I was in quite a bit of it sucks coming from like one of your peak moments of your life, you know, marrying the woman of your dreams and having the wedding just like bells and whistles, went amazing, and then just like a deep dark plunge into depression after that. I mean, I was like, for about a month straight, I couldn't roll out of bed. But you know, so with that, long story short, Lady Tarantula Hawk turned out it's not going to happen. Maybe in the future, hopefully. I'm still holding out hope. I love the project. That script, Madison and I, we took a writer's retreat and you know, wrote it from scratch, from the ground up, page one to final. And however, and so with that, and at that point, we are tight with Chris, and it kind of became like a mutual agreement of, we're both trying to develop our first features, and whoever gets it prepped and ready to get rolling, we're going to pause ours and work on the other, right?
Right.
And so we were, you know, primed and ready. Like Lady Tarantula Hawk was that, you know, Chris was ready and all this and that. And but of course, once that fell through, now it's kind of, we pivoted to Chris's script. And so his feature was called Queen Cecilia. We had been shooting that for 7 months, which finally wrapped. Geez, I don't even finally wrapped like January. However, shit happens. We spent 7 months shooting what was supposed to be our all of our first feature, and after a lot of deliberating, turns out we're going to make it a short. We're going to take the best bits and pieces, make it a short, and take that to financiers, production houses, and try to raise even more money to really properly do it.
Yeah, that's not necessarily that's actually a really good idea. I've heard of people saying that to do that recently to actually, if you got $30,000, you can go ahead. What you can do is you can go ahead and invest that $30,000, make the best pitch you possibly can, do the best you can, and then go in there and pitch that to I know that I've seen that before. I know that that's what Richard Hatch tried to do when he was trying to relaunch Battlestar Galactica. He made a 30-minute pitch movie and put all the money he had in it. People helped him, and then he went in there and made a pitch. Now, his pitch wasn't necessarily picked, but what it did was it showed there was enough interest in the project that they went ahead and helped launch the other Battlestar Galactica that they did, and then Richard Hatch got a role in it.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's actually a pretty good idea, because I was always of the assumption that would it be good is to, if you have, let's say your budget is $50,000, but you got $20,000. I know a lot of filmmakers will turn around and they'll pump out $20,000 and then wait for the 30. Me, I always said, well, if you got the first 20, why don't you wait for the other 30, and then you have 50, then make that pop. Just
Right.
Wait until you, because to me it's like, if your movie's budgeted for 50,000, then you want to get $50,000 into it. You don't want to just sit there and say, well, I only got 20, so let me go ahead and stretch it thin, and just, and because that it comes out on the screen. You know what I'm saying? Certain things will come out, like the effects won't be as nearly as good. The quality at the skill level of the actors you're going to get maybe not be so good. Location shots can all be restricted because you guys don't have the money to go on that. Thank you, Betty. I guess I got a troll. Got dealt with. I didn't even know what he was saying. So, yeah, that's that. But I think what you're doing is right. I just think that as far as that goes, as far to make a pitch and then take it to financiers, and then see where it goes. And I like the idea too that you're just because your project didn't go at this particular moment. I like the idea that you turn around and pivoting and helping your friend Chris, because that still keeps you in the game. It still keeps you on set. It still keeps you learning and expanding your like you said, your tool belt. I mean, that's only going to benefit you, right?
I will also say, holy crap. It was such a learning experience. Hindsight's 2020. I'm actually, it sucks Lady Tarantula Hawk fell apart the way it did, but we learned so much on shooting Chris's feature to be now a short. But now it's called Crossed. But it's amazing. Like, honestly, I think it was the better move. And there is precedent to do this, to take this method. However, yeah, it was an insane learning experience that I wound up looking back, like, kind of glad that I have the knowledge that I do now and the forefront to take into battle for our actual first feature. You learn a lot. You learn a lot of not necessarily cutting corners, but cutting headaches out of the equation. We've learned through Chris's feature.
What's going to be your role on it? Are you going to be, dare I say, will you be an editor, maybe?
No, I mean, Chris, I was first AD. We were producing. That was Madison and I's main hat, was we were co-producing it for him. Not financially, but wearing all the other hats and helping in everything else. And we both helped as far as developing the story. And I mean, you walk into it with a feature script and an idea, and then you get somewhat to the finish line. You realize, oh shit, no, would be so much more intriguing if we took it in this direction. And so once we realized that we were going to make it a short, we had quite a few reshoots, you know, to kind of alter and pivot and make the thing make sense in a shorter format. And so, I mean, this thing has grown and fluctuated. It was 11 minutes, it was 17 minutes, it was 40 minutes, it was 30 minutes. Now we're looking at 25 minutes, and we're just trying to find the best version of it to capture and whoever we put it in front of. And I do think that we've finally found the perfect medium, as far as, you know, you kind of don't want to aspire to make as long of a short as you can. There's so many different factors that comes to play, especially when it comes to festivals. You know, it kind of plays in your favor the shorter your short is. But it is like, if you look at the 11-minute version, which we were very close to kind of making it be the one. I think the 25-minute version is night and day better. And so, yeah, so we're just now starting the submission phase as far as like putting that out there, and we were developing our Madison and I's first feature, and then we got this bun in the oven, and so that's kind of put a hold on things a little bit. You know, we just bought our first house. We had to move out of Austin because we basically got priced out because everything's crazy right now. So we're in Buda, which is in between Austin and San Marcos.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's not something nobody has any money, but they're still raising the house prices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, I think that, you know, definitely. I mean, how are you going to be continuing working after the baby's born, or will you actually will take you know, you'll still be producing Chris's project, I'm sure, but will you be taking that time where after your boy's born, will you go back to maybe screenwriting while you're waiting, you know, waiting for Madison to recover a little bit?
For sure. That's the plan. I mean, really get it where you can. I mean, if it's someone else's project and we could just be some hands on set, we just love being on set. And
Sure.
regardless of whose set it is, it's experience. It's something you can take away, and you know, also it's just more factors that is to be considered when it does come to our feature. So, like, for instance, you know, you kind of have to really assess your situation. I'll put it this way. I mean, there's many ways I can put it. I'll try to put it in as little ways as I can. I could go on forever, but you know, like we'd go to one, like a local film festival, and a guy who's like on the panel, he has his film up there, and it's very clearly the movie was shot on maybe $30,000, $40,000, but the movie is a White House terrorist takeover, and it's like you watch it, it's like you're very clearly shooting out of your backyard, but with these lofty ideas. And we're watching the panel, and he's like, "Yeah, you know, you got to shoot within your budget because originally the screenplay was going to be an alien takeover of the White House." And it's just like, oh my goodness, dude. So like our approach for our first feature is like, have you heard of like the Rebel Without a Crew
Uh,
project?
no.
So Robert Rodriguez, he put out this amazing book. If you're a filmmaker, it you need to consume it any way you can possible. It will become your Bible. And so he put out El Mariachi, which
Yeah.
he shot for $7,000. He would go to get like medical testing and all this, and he would raise the money that way. And then he got crafty and creative, and he made a very thrilling movie on, you know, a no budget basically. And so that's kind of become a loose kind of phrase, like I'm going to make my Rebel Without a Crew. And you're trying to make the best movie that you can within the range of $7,000 to $10,000. Now, with that, you need to have a story that coincides with that budget. You know, you want to keep your audience enwrapped in your story. And that's the worst thing to do is remove them from it whenever you see like, you can only afford your nephew to do the CGI on this. And so So we are attempting to shoot a one take feature in where it takes place one night, one location, a cast of 8, and you kind of offset the difficulty of, like, you don't have a 7th month a budget for a 3-month shoot. You can't keep the actors, on set that long. So
Right.
let's formulate. You don't want to write yourself in a corner where there's a one take movie and there's an explosion or something. So you have to find other ways, other means to intrigue the audience. You have to find other means to pull certain emotional beats or strings. You have to think outside the box. And also, it's like, limitations is almost where the creativity really flourishes. If someone dropped $1 billion on your head, and it's like, make a movie, it's like anything is possible. Well, it's like you're gonna keep spinning wheels as far as just like making what you need or what you feel like you have to. But if you have 15,000, if you have one location, if you have 4 people, and you need to make the most intriguing script or story or characters, like, it really forces you to really like sharpen the knives and have as sharp of an edge that you possibly can. And so in this sense, it's like, we're not going to have this like crazy explosion or anything, but we're going to have this crazy execution that
You know,
hopefully
you, you didn't have crazy explosions either in camera.
true, yeah. And
Um,
so, and just like that, yeah, we found a story. We entered that whole process like very aware that we need a story that we can execute on a no budget, and something that's like, it's not gonna take anyone out of the picture if they see and they're like, oh god, like they really dropped the ball there. But you see it all the time at these lower local regional festivals.
I
And
think I think for the most part, I think filmmakers, I think they see the mistakes of others make sooner because they're more skilled. They know what's missing. An average guy like myself, I sit down and I watch a short and I might think, wow, this is pretty good. But I don't see all the shortcomings. I don't see all the mistakes made. I don't see all the lighting mistakes or maybe the script, the errors or whatnot. I just see I'm just looking to see when I watch it, it's like, wow, that was pretty well said, or maybe the set design was great. I think filmmakers, just like musicians, they know better than we do because they're in it.
for sure, yeah,
You being a filmmaker, you're your own worst enemy. Like you go back and you watch your movie and you say, "Oh, if I could done that different, I could done this better." I'm
right,
like that here. I mean, I always rewatch what I do here, and I always sit there and say, "What could I have done better? What questions did I not ask?
right.
Or how did I handle this or that or whatever?" So I'm my own worst critic as well,
See,
I think it's a good thing to be because it helps you improve your craft going forward.
right, and there are avenues where that could suit a particular filmmaker, where that's kind of what they need. But if you want to continue to progress and work your way up the ladder, then you don't only have like other contemporary filmmakers who are in the know of like, oh god, you see the framing on that. Of course, there's a certain level of pretentiousness at that point, but you have the gatekeepers and the powers that be and the guys that the people the suits that are going to be standing in the way of your next upgrade of a budget, and then they see these things as well. And so you're kind of shooting to, if you're doing it right, there's no right or wrong way, but you're kind of shooting to not impress, but you want to show like you have the chops. And so like just going back to Queen Cecilia, which is now Crossed, we shot a short for that was just a single scene on a rooftop, a garage, a parking garage rooftop, and it's amazing. It's great. But it's just a single solitary scene. You could see that and you can go, oh, I see the potential. However, what we were able to get out with this feature turned short, it's becomes more illustrative of our capabilities with shooting or approaching a feature. With this new version, this 25-minute version, We shot in Mexico. We shot on the border. We shot with border security, unbeknownst to them. You know, we were in Laredo, Austin, Somerville. Like there's multiple locations in a way that you are multiplying the budget on the screen rather what is obtainable. And I'll just like we could say, we shot the newer version of this for $30,000. However, this is going to get us further than the initial first short on the top of the roof, the garage rooftop. This is going to get us in many more doors than that could have ever possibly done. No matter how well it was, it's a relatively easier endeavor. You know, whereas this one is like, holy shit, they were able to do that. They got that. They were able to squeeze this, but no, that, and so it's definitely a blessing in disguise in that regard, that you're definitely equipping yourself with something that you're more capable of turning into something else, something greater, something bigger.
I'm going to comment on the channel, on the chat here, because it's been flying. I want to say hi to Hobbs and the John Horton that came in. Our good friend Elaine, our very nice friend Elaine. That's my library buddy right there. Nice. Her and I go to the library every Tuesday to go hunting. Let's see. And thank you again, Betty, for a great wrench. Let's see. John's got a question for you here. He goes, Travis, what is the biggest learning curve? What is the biggest learning curve is the most difficult to learn? What is your writing style and approach?
Man, I mean, it's going to be different. It's going to be different for everybody. I would say, you know, whenever we had Shoot Good Media, one of the difficult things, the hump that I had to get over personally, to take that next leap, is you can't be precious. I aspired to, you know, I actually, back in the day, I would drag my feet on the idea of my first feature because I had to be perfect. Like, I got to make my Reservoir Dogs, you know, like I held my craft, myself, it was way too precious. And you got to just like deflate the ego. You just have to act. You just have to act on it. Like you have to spring forward into action. And you have to realize, you know, shit, like there's so many filmmakers out there. Like everybody thinks Sean Baker's first movie is Tangerine. If you talk to everyone I've possibly talked to under the subject of Sean Baker, they go, oh yeah, did you see that guy's first movie he shot on an iPhone? Tangerine is his 5th movie. He shot 4 movies before that. 4 feature-length movies that virtually no one has heard of. But without those 4 movies, Tangerine would not be placing him in the spotlight that it had. You know, it would not have garnered him the attention. So you learn that there's so much more depth and layers to getting to that first feature, whether it's your first or whether it's your 30th, you know. As long as you continue to improve, progress, you learn from the last, you execute your execution, as long as there is some kind of developing muscle, and as long as you continue to act and develop it, you can't go stagnant. You know, we know people who are local to Austin and they're great and we love them and they're friends of ours, but they're on their 6th feature and you would never know if it was the first of the 6, the middle of the 6, you know, you don't see the growth. They're not putting that to action.
We have seen that too. Yeah, there's a well-known horror director that I tell the story because I think it's so relevant. There's a very well-known horror director who's been making movies for 20 years. And this guy went to write a review on one of his movies. And he's been a fan of this film director for years. He loves his movies. He loves the film director. But this guy dropped a new movie out, and you know, and the writer, the critic, he just finally lost his shit. He just said, you know, I've been a fan of this guy for 20 years. I've watched all his movies. I've reported on them all, reviewed them all. But I got to be honest with you. I'm tired of watching the same shit every time he comes out. He has
Right.
never shown any growth as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
He was not writing as a film critic. He was writing as a fan. He was
Right.
saying, "Man, I want to see something new. You do the same thing every single movie." It's like, okay, that's great for the first three or four, but man, you've been doing this for 20 years. You got all these movies, and they're all the same.
Mhm.
They're all the same. And he just said, I'm so sick and tired of it because I know he's capable of more and better, but it never happens. Um, I always kept that story with me because it's like, you got to grow every time you do a project. You have to grow in some respects,
Right.
whether grow in casting and grow in editing and grow in scoring, and you got to keep growing as an artist. You can't. You're right. You got to keep moving forward. As long as you're moving, move forward. That's
Mhm.
all. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be like from eight. You don't have to go from point A to point Z without going in between. So I agree with that. You know you got to just take it steps at a time. Um, I will probably have to think about wrapping this up for us, but I'm gonna let the chat have a shot to ask a couple more questions here.
Cool.
Um, I definitely gonna have you come back.
Hell yeah.
I want you to come back with Madison. I know that won't be till after October, but I definitely want you to come back whenever you feel comfortable enough to do so.
For sure.
Um, yeah, you're a fantastic guest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic host.
Oh, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this experience. I mean, I try to make sure I don't, do the same six questions as another director commented on. He says, "I don't want to come in. I don't want to answer the same six questions." No, no, no. I promise you, we have eight questions to ask. Um, does anybody have any? Oh, okay. Yeah, here we go. That's a really good question, John. Real good question. Um, John mentions how hard is it to fall into that void of less innovation? Yeah, I guess that would be because you don't want to just settle for just doing the same thing. I mean, you got to be you got to be aware of that. You got to be careful of that.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to just settle for mediocrity. You don't want to just settle for safe,
Right.
or as you said, settle for precious.
Right.
You can sit there and say, okay, you know what? You can sit there and say, yeah, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a filmmaker. But if someone comes up to you and says, well, can I see one? And if you don't have anything to talk about, then really, what are you doing? You know, I mean, you were a filmmaker last year and the year before that. I mean, I've heard that with bands. Oh yeah, we're working on our new record. Well, when's that going to come out? Well, we're still working on it. Yeah, I
The
was
next summer.
working on that. You're working on that like last year.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's great to get a free drink, maybe, but sooner or later you gotta pony up the goods. Uh, so that's a good question. So how do you and here's another filmmaker just came inside here, Chadwick Whitmer. How are you, Chadwick? He's also a filmmaker.
Nice.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We get a few in here. Um, so how do you do that? I mean, when as far as that go, I mean, is that where having someone like Madison, who's your producing partner, is that really one of the most valuable things that you guys, instead of just you bouncing off your ideas off the wall and have them come back to you, now you actually have someone that you can go to her and sit there and say, well, what do you think, or what's your feeling, or how would you do this? I mean, it's got to be a refreshing it's got to be refreshing to have a different voice coming back at you, knowing that they're going to have a different opinion,
For sure.
right? They're
100%.
not going to just be sitting there. She's not going to be sitting there, or you're not going to be just sitting there, and just because that's my wife or that's my husband, I'm going to agree with them or whatever they say. That you guys both look at it as filmmakers, like, I like that idea, but I want to put the story in daylight instead of nighttime. You
Yeah.
know,
I,
uh,
I,
uh, we're going to put eight guys in a room. Okay, that's great. But, when we cast these, we got to think about casting live. We got to cast theater actors for this because they're used to standing in one place.
exactly.
Regular actors are they might struggle with this being put in one set, But theater actors, they know about that, so they might be able to give us a better performance.
Mhm.
That's a free tip, by the way. So
Yeah, no,
uh,
absolutely. Especially like when it comes to like the one take feature. Like,
yeah,
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 that's like the prime. If you don't have tip top talent, which you know, like they can coast off their experience, like
hmm
that's uh, the the next best thing that you could possibly do is look in that kind of pool of talent that comes from theater, because that's what they're literally doing. They're literally putting on a film for hours to 2 hours at a time.
in one location.
Yes, exactly. So, but like as far as how did he word it? Falling into the void of less innovation. I think it like you said, you have to have other people. You need to find your tribe. And I think that's another thing that took me a long time to realize is like you one difference when it comes to music and filmmaking is it's not necessarily ideal, but you can thrive. I don't know if that's the right word. You can create to completion music on your own. You know, who was it? Oh man, I'm brain farting. Um, oh damn it, who is it? Trent Reznor. He
Nine Inch Nails.
9 Inch Nails, that first album, he worked at a studio. So don't quote me. I may be misquoting this or whatever. Maybe this is urban legend. I don't know. He worked at some studio or something, as like, let's just say, the a janitor or something. I don't know. Like he would wait till all the sessions were over at the end of the night, and he on his own recorded the first 9 Inch Nails album. He did all the parts, all the pieces himself before everyone else. He got everyone else on board. The conception of the first album came from him, solely from him. All the pieces, all the fingerprints, everything. You can't
Yeah.
do that as a filmmaker. Like you're going to need
Oh,
someone.
yeah.
You're going to need a partner. You're going to need a crew. It's like you're going to need to learn how to translate what is going on in your head and put it in a succinct form that everyone else in the room understands to get everybody else on the same page.
Yeah. Hell, you can't. I got people. I got actors that are doing self tapes, and they have 2 or 3 people helping them.
Right. I mean, yeah, even as something as minimal as that, as an audition tape.
Yeah.
And so you kind of um, I think people immediately assume, and they're right for the most part when it comes to screenwriting, like it is a solo, very uh, lonely thing to do. Like you're holed up in your office with the curtains drawn. You don't know if it's day or night, and you're really just submersing yourself into this world for however long you need to. However, you really do, you need some outside perspective. And that's you learn quick. It doesn't take long for you to get advice or 2 cents or opinions on your piece from other people. You start to learn like, they didn't get it. But if you start to get the exact same note that you claim this person isn't getting, if you get that same note with every single person, you're not getting it. There's something that you need. There's some dots that are not connecting the way that you're intending it to connect. And you're not going to know that unless you get that, the 2 cents from your tribe. So you're building your tribe at however long it takes, whether that's your wife, your family members, your friends. You find it's a little easier to get 2 cents from people who are actually in film. If I give my script to my best buddy Scott, who I went to junior high and high school with, he's gonna be like, "Dude, this is great." It's not gonna be, it's not gonna help.
No.
It could help your ego. It could help be a boost of confidence or whatever, or just like be the pat on the back that you may need. And there are times when you need that. When someone gives me a script to read, I often will present it like, okay, do you want to be congratulated or critiqued? Like, do you want to learn? But sometimes you need a pat on the back. Sometimes you need that, like, hey, you got it, buddy. Like you're on the right track. But it's the yin in the yang. Like it's it's necessary for you to get that outside feedback, because you're not going to see the forest through the trees. Like, you are going to be so close. You are going to get tunnel vision. You are going to miss certain things. And again, you know, like the thing with why haven't they fixed the cameras yet? This is a particular example where everyone said, why is she in voiceover the whole thing? They're like, voiceover is such a no-no. Voiceover is a faux pas. They're like, you know, voiceover is such a cheap. The thing is, you got to recognize what you're doing with the voiceover, whether that is using it against expectations, or you got to use it as a device. You know, you can show not tell through voiceover, and the whole thing is like, once you get to the end of why haven't they fixed the cameras yet, it comes to full circle why the voiceover was necessary, why you needed to be hearing this coming from the internal monologue of the main character. You know, you learn why. You just have to be smart when you use these tools. You know, when you only have a hammer, everything becomes a nail. And so you have to kind of utilize and be conscious of what you're doing and how you're using what you're doing. So it's like, again, that's like one of the few things where everyone who read the script was like, I want to see them interact. I don't want to see the voiceover. But it's just like, this is what I call it. It's something that needs to be shown through execution. It's an executable idea, in that, like, you need to see if it works or not. You have to physically see if it works or not. You know, some things, everything is theory until you see it on the screen, or until it's sitting in front of an audience. But I mean, that's just, you have to be conscious of it. Yep. And so that's another thing, is like, you have to take your ego out of it. You have to look at this as you know, as shit, I don't know.
No, I think you made your point. No. But on that point, I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to wrap this up a little bit here. If some of you guys are just coming in, please go back and watch the replay. Definitely worth it. Highly recommend it. I want to thank you guys, the chat, for coming in and supporting this interview. BIG. Thanks to Hobbs and Betty and everybody else that came out there and helped me keep it cleaned and untrolled upon. Travis and Madison, I want to thank you both for coming in and talking. Madison was our source in the chat. I'll tell you what's coming up on the channel, because you guys all want to know that, right? Of course.
Could I do a shameless plug?
Sure.
So what we kind of started as a means to hopefully get the ball rolling and help further fund our filmmaking. I started a line of poster art, which, oh my Lord, if you go to Etsy, we did have the URL, but now we're in the middle of transferring the domain to the Etsy page. So if you go to the domain, it's not going to work. But if you go to Etsy, search for Wall of Words Art, all one word. What I essentially do is I'm combining all my passions, try to make something that we can get going to, like, make some extra funding that we could put towards our passions in filmmaking. But so I'll take a full screenplay, whether it's a feature, an entire feature, or a TV episode screenplay, and I handwrite them from beginning to end to completion, using just the words to construct an image that represents its source material. And so we have a shop on Etsy, which, you know, just started kind of taking off a little bit, and we're selling high quality prints. And so, like, for instance, this one I just finished, this is like, you're staring at the entire Avengers movie right here. So this is the screenplay from beginning. Can we get that? From beginning to end, you're looking at the screenplay. So you could have essentially hang the movie on your wall.
So that's the script in the background.
This is the script, yeah. This is the screenplay right there.
Oh, that's awesome, actually.
So thank you. So yeah, check it out. Anyone interested? It makes for a great gift. I had to shamelessly just, like, put that plug out there. There's another thing you got to learn, is you just got to advertise yourself. You got to promote yourself.
That's right.
Very uncomfortable doing so.
If you don't promote yourself, nobody else will. Exactly. That's the thing.
So thank you for that time.
Not a problem. Okay, here's what we got going on. Next Monday, the 11th, we have John Armijo Jr. will be here. Actor John Armijo Jr. He has appeared in several blockbusters, including G.I. Joe Retaliation. He's appeared in Jurassic World. He is Planet of the Apes trilogy. He'll be here on the 11th at 8 o'clock. That's a Monday. On the 12th of July at 8 o'clock, we have the lovely Screen Queen Devaney Penn will be here with us. Cool. And she'll be talking about her adventures over in Thailand. She just got done filming a couple of features over there. She'll be back over here talking to us about it. On the 13th, we have a doubleheader with us. We're talking to screenwriter and film critic Tom Joloffe will be here with us. He writes for Flickering Myth magazine, and he's a screenwriter. And then at 8 o'clock, we have everybody's favorite Ginger, the lovely Danny Inks will be here. She's going to be a ball of fun. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She's so much fun. Danny's just a hoot. And then on the 14th, we have the vivacious and awesome and the leader of Team Old Do Vampire, Gory from Gory B Movie. She will be here with us on Thursday the 14th at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. start because she's on the West Coast. So 9 p.m. here. So that's what we got coming up for the channel here next week. And of course, 2 more notes before I let everybody go. On the 10th, me and Al on Al Lacar's channel, The Midnight Society, it's the Battle of the 59s. We're watching and reviewing and talking about the Bat from 1959 and the giant Gila monster from 1959. Wow. Now, how's that for quality entertainment? I mean, let me tell you, the Bat is freaking fantastic. That is a fun movie.
I had the Gila monster on VHS growing up.
I'm going to be watching that again. I saw like the first 5 minutes of it, and I already can tell the big difference between the Bat and the Gila monster. It's night and day. Same year, night and day. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And then, of course, the Midnight Hour will be held on Popping the Popcorn's channel tonight. As soon as we get out of here, we're all going to rush over there for the Midnight Hour with Katie and Bones and Mighty Casey, the sassy Jennifer Tochi, and who else am I forgetting? Hope I'm not forgetting anybody else. Maybe Echo. I don't know. But that's what's going on right after we get out of here. So once again, thank you guys all for coming, and we will see you for 8 Questions With on Monday night. If not, we will see you on Sunday night for the Midnight Society. Thanks so much for coming and supporting this interview, and we will talk at you soon. Peace.
Thanks,
Stay right where you're at.